You think you're stuck in the past because you're broken. You're not. You're stuck because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, and no one ever taught you how to override it. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I need you to understand something right now. Replaying old memories isn't a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not you being dramatic or unable to just move on like everyone keeps telling you to. It's a neurological loop that your brain has learned to run on autopilot. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why it happens, why it destroys your motivation, and how to actually break free from it. Because here's what I know after years of working with people who are stuck. The ones who stay stuck aren't the ones who experience the worst things. They're the ones who never understood why their brain keeps dragging them backward. So let's talk about why you replay old memories again and again, and why that's the exact reason you lose motivation after starting strong. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You don't lose motivation because you're lazy. You lose it because your brain is simultaneously trying to protect you and punish you, and it's using your past as the weapon. Every time you start something new, a project, a relationship, a goal, a business, a healthier habit, your brain immediately scans your memory bank for similar experiences. It's looking for patterns. It's asking, have we done this before? What happened? Did we survive? Did we succeed? Did we get hurt? And if the answer is pain, rejection, failure, or humiliation, your brain hits the brakes hard. This is called threat-based rumination, and it's one of the most misunderstood psychological mechanisms in the general public. People think rumination is just overthinking. It's not. Rumination is your brain's attempt to solve a problem that it believes is still dangerous, even if that problem happened 5, 10, 20 years ago. Your brain doesn't care that the breakup was in 2019. It doesn't care that the job rejection was 3 years ago. It doesn't care that the betrayal happened in childhood. If it registered as a threat to your safety, your identity, or your worth, it filed it under unresolved danger. And every time you try to move forward, your brain pulls that file back out and says, wait, remember what happened last time? Let's review that again, just to be safe. That's why you replay the same memory over and over. That's why you lose steam 2 weeks into a new goal. That's why you self-sabotage right when things start going well. You're not failing. You're being hijacked by a survival system that thinks the past is happening right now. Let me be very clear about something. The critics, the ones who tell you to let it go, to stop living in the past, to just focus on the present, they don't understand how memory works. They don't understand trauma. They don't understand the neuroscience of emotional conditioning. When someone tells you to stop replaying old memories, what they're really saying is, your pain makes me uncomfortable, so please stop talking about it. But here's what they don't know. You can't stop replaying a memory by force. You can't willpower your way out of rumination. Suppression doesn't work. Distraction doesn't work long term. Positive thinking doesn't rewire the neural pathways that were carved by emotional intensity. What works is reconsolidation. What works is understanding that every time you replay a memory, you're not just remembering it, you're rewriting it. And if you keep rewriting it with the same emotional charge, the same narrative, the same meaning, you're reinforcing the loop. But if you intervene at the right moment with the right psychological tools, you can actually change the memory's emotional signature. You can take the power out of it. You can file it under resolved instead of threat. That's not pop psychology. That's how memory reconsolidation works, and it's one of the most evidence-based breakthroughs in neuroscience in the last 2 decades. So why do you lose motivation after starting strong? Because starting strong requires hope, and hope requires your brain to believe that the future can be different from the past. But when your brain is stuck replaying old memories, especially memories of failure, rejection, or loss, it can't generate hope. It can't project a positive future. It's too busy running threat assessments based on outdated data. Here's the cycle. You get excited about something new. You feel motivated. You take action. You start seeing progress. And then, out of nowhere, the doubt creeps in. The fear. The voice that says, this won't last. You've tried this before. Remember what happened? You're going to fail again. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to get hurt. And suddenly, the motivation evaporates. You stop showing up. You procrastinate. You quit before anyone can reject you. You sabotage before the universe can. This isn't lack of discipline. This isn't lack of commitment. This is fear-based memory interference, and it's one of the most common reasons people can't sustain progress, even when they desperately want to change. Let me tell you what's really happening in your brain. When you experience something emotionally significant, especially something painful, your amygdala tags it as important. Your hippocampus encodes it with context, where you were, who was there, what it felt like. Your prefrontal cortex tries to make sense of it. What does this mean about me, about the world, about my future? And if the conclusion is, I'm not good enough, or people always leave, or I always fail, that conclusion becomes a core belief. And core beliefs act like filters. They determine what you notice, what you remember, and what you expect. So when you try to start fresh, when you try to build something new, your brain runs that new experience through the old filter. And if the filter says danger, your motivation shuts down. This is why therapy that only focuses on thinking positive or challenging negative thoughts often fails, because you're not dealing with a thinking problem. You're dealing with a memory problem. You're dealing with an emotional conditioning problem. You need to go deeper. You need to access the memory, process the emotion, update the meaning, and let your nervous system know, that was then, this is now, I survived, I learned, I'm safe. And here's where people get it wrong. They think the goal is to forget, to erase the past, to never think about it again. That's not the goal. That's not even possible. The goal is to neutralize the emotional charge. The goal is to remember the event without re-experiencing the trauma. The goal is to look at the memory from a place of power, not from a place of pain. When you can do that, when you can say, yes, that happened, it hurt, and I'm still here, I'm still capable, I'm still worthy, that's when the loop breaks. That's when you stop losing motivation, because your brain is no longer treating every new beginning as a replay of an old ending. Now let me address the people who will criticize this message. Some of you will say, this is just making excuses. People need to take responsibility. People need to stop blaming their past and just move forward. To you, I say this. Taking responsibility doesn't mean pretending the past didn't shape you. It means understanding how it shaped you and choosing to reshape yourself. You can't change what you don't understand, and you can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Telling someone to just get over it is not tough love. It's ignorance dressed up as advice. Real strength is facing the pain. Real courage is doing the work to process it. Real growth is learning to distinguish between a memory and a current threat. And if you've never had to do that work, if you've never been stuck in a loop that steals your motivation every time you try to rise, then you don't get to judge the people who have. Here's what I want you to understand. You are not weak for replaying old memories. You are not broken for losing motivation after starting strong. You are human. You have a nervous system that was shaped by your experiences. You have a brain that learned to protect you in the only way it knew how. But protection that was necessary in the past can become a prison in the present, and you have the power to change that, not by ignoring the past, not by suppressing the memories, but by reprocessing them, by updating the story, by teaching your brain that you are no longer the person who got hurt. You are the person who survived, who learned, who grew. So here's what you do. First, you stop shaming yourself for the loop. Shame strengthens the loop. Compassion weakens it. Second, you identify the specific memories that keep replaying, not vague feelings, specific scenes. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel in your body? Third, you ask yourself, what did I conclude about myself in that moment? What belief did I form? Fourth, you examine that belief with the wisdom you have now, not the fear you had then. Is it true? Is it still relevant? Is it helping or hurting you? Fifth, you consciously rewrite the narrative, not by denying what happened, but by adding what you know now. That rejection hurt, and it taught me resilience. That failure was painful, and it redirected me to something better. That betrayal shattered me, and I rebuilt myself stronger. And sixth, this is critical, you pair that new narrative with action. You don't just think it, you live it. You prove to your brain, through behavior, that the new story is true, because your brain doesn't believe what you say, it believes what you do. Here's the part that's going to make some people uncomfortable. This work is hard. It's harder than motivation hacks. It's harder than morning routines. It's harder than goal-setting frameworks. Because this work requires you to sit with the parts of yourself you've been running from. It requires you to feel the feelings you've been avoiding. It requires you to be honest about the wounds you've been pretending don't exist. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They'd rather stay stuck and blame external circumstances than go internal and face the truth. But if you're still reading this, if you've made it this far, you're not one of those people. You're someone who's ready to break the loop. You're someone who's tired of sabotaging your own progress. You're someone who wants to know why you keep losing motivation and what to actually do about it. Let me tell you what happens when you do this work. You stop fearing new beginnings because you're no longer haunted by old endings. You stop abandoning goals halfway through because you're no longer triggered by the memory of past failures. You stop sabotaging relationships because you're no longer projecting old betrayals onto new people. You stop losing motivation because you've taught your brain that progress is safe, that success is possible, that you are capable of sustaining what you start. And most importantly, you stop being a prisoner of your past. You become the author of your future. Here's my final message to you. The fact that you replay old memories doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you're unfinished. There's something your brain is trying to resolve. There's something your nervous system is trying to heal. And the reason you lose motivation after starting strong isn't because you're not disciplined enough, not committed enough, not strong enough. It's because you're starting from a place of unresolved pain, and pain doesn't fuel progress. Safety does, clarity does, completion does. So give yourself permission to go back, not to stay there, but to finish what was left unfinished, to process what was left unprocessed, to heal what was left wounded. And then, when you're ready, you'll start again. But this time, you won't be running from the past. You'll be walking into the future, with your eyes open, with your heart whole, with your motivation intact, because you'll finally understand the past doesn't define you. It refined you. And now you're ready to build something new,